Good morning. It's great to see all of you. Hope your day is going great. Before we get started today, I did want to throw out an announcement. We are in need for someone to sign up for the teaching of the Fifth and Under on Wednesday nights. If you've never done it, cool. It is a great time to spend with our kids. We have a good group of kids here, and just have some time to get to know them and to hang out with them and go over some Bible with them. And it's a great opportunity to serve. And it's on Wednesday nights. You can sign up on a sheet out there if you are interested. And we hope somebody is interested, because it is something that is worth doing. We sometimes like to remember what our first vehicle was. That was mine, actually. Yeah, really, that's mine. Yeah, or was mine. Yeah, I was going to tell you how that happened. I got that truck, and just to put a little context on how cars were made back then, that is or was a 76 Chevy pickup truck. Made in the 70s, back when they made vehicles out of metal, before a squirrel could cause $30,000 worth of front end damage. Back in the day where you actually had to smack something hard in order for it to do some damage to your vehicle. Yeah, that was my 76 Chevy pickup truck. I had it for 6 months. Don't judge me. I got it in the summer of 1997, and I'll say, y'all be sure to tell Kim that I was going faster than 10, all right? I got it in the summer of 1997. I just completed my junior year in high school. I was starting my senior year in the fall of 1997. I went on a church trip for a week. I went to go mountain climbing and wilderness trek in Colorado. When I came back, my parents got me a truck. Think about, go back and think about your first car and what that meant. Freedom. It meant freedom. And this was back in the day. I'm going to sound like Father Time now. This was back in the day. When I got that truck in 1997, gas was 89 cents a gallon. Yeah. Which meant that when I would drive that thing everywhere, I went to the same church as my parents, but, I didn't ride with my parents anymore. Now I had my own car. I wanted to take myself, because freedom. 6 months I had it, from June of 1997 to January 1st, 1998. January 1st. 1998, New Year's Day. I wrestled in high school. Wrestling is a winter sport, which is ironic considering what wrestlers wear. Let's have them wrestle in the winter, why not? January was right in the middle of the season, and also, of course, that's also Christmas break. We would have to go back during our Thanksgiving and Christmas breaks to go and have wrestling practice. In the afternoon? No, in the morning. New Year's Day, 1998. Our coach told us, we had a 2-week Christmas break. Coach said the first week is yours. The second week we're having practice, because we still got wrestling to do. On January 1st, we had a wrestling practice, 8 o'clock in the morning. Teenagers being teenagers, we all said, Coach, why? He says, look, you've all seen the ball drop. Get to bed and come to practice. I said, okay, so we did. I spent the night at my friend's house, and there was 3 of us on the wrestling team who have known each other since elementary school. We all spent the night at our friend's house, and we were all going to go to wrestling practice in the morning. My friends did a lot of the driving. I had a friend of mine who was son of a mechanic, and he restored. When he was in 4th grade, he had a birthday present. It was a rusted out, gutted '65 Mustang, and over the period of a decade, he restored it. We let them do a lot of the driving. Another friend of mine had a pickup truck, and I had a truck. And so they did the majority of the driving. So I said, look, I'll drive today. Let me drive today. I never drive. So I drove us to wrestling practice. We had a 2-hour practice from 8 o'clock to 10. Afterwards, we went back and hung out for a bit, and we started getting hungry. One of my friends, he also did a lot of work clearing land for his uncle. And his uncle would just pay him afterwards. You know, he would work for him for like a month, and then after the month, he would just give him $5,000. You know, back in 1997 dollars to a teenager. All right, and so he loved his friends, and he always liked to buy meals and do the stuff. He would say, "Oh, I'll pay." And us being the broke teenagers we were, we let him. So it was getting close to lunchtime after wrestling practice. Say, "Okay, let's go get something to eat." And he pipes up. He's the one with the money. He says, "Let's go to Red Lobster." My friend, we're thinking Burger King. That's about the funds we had. He's like, "No, I'll take you all to Red Lobster. If you insist, Dennis." All right. So we hop into my truck. And again, I said, "Look, I'll drive." So we hop into my truck and we go to Red Lobster. And I'm looking and trying to figure out what the stuff is on the menu. And they're eating. We had a great lunch on the way back. We're coming down Samuel Street, which if you're not from Dallas, you might have no idea what I'm talking about. That's fine. We're going down Samuel Street. We're about to hit Big Town Boulevard. I'm going, and the speed limit's like 45 or 50. So, you get to pick up some speed when you're going down there. And there's a intersection, 4-way intersection, working with a light. And I had an arrow. There was an arrow going on when I was going there. And by the time I got to the front of the turning lane, the arrow disappeared. But being the stupid teenager that I was, I decided to take it anyway. I did not see the car coming the other way. We met in the middle. 76 Chevys, you might remember, they had the lap belts. Remember those? You just had the lap belts. You didn't have the shoulder stuff. You just had it across your lap. When we got smacked, I'm on the driver's side, obviously, so I'm farthest away from the damage, but even I got to kiss that steering wheel real good. Those suckers are hard. So I was bruised up. My friend in the middle, Dennis, he was in the middle because he was the shortest. Lap belt shot forward. His fingers went through, remember those wide-gapped air conditioning vents that they had back in the day? Fingers went in there. He had some cuts on his fingers, lap belt bruising, and whatnot. My best friend in the world sat on the passenger seat, and you might be able to tell in that picture or not, but you remember, and these were lifesavers in the summer, the triangle window on a pickup truck. You just open the latch, and that sucker was awesome. Well, they had those nice metal latches, lap belts. They hit us diagonally, so he does this number with his head. Head goes forward, scars himself on the latch. That was just us. We were young, we were teenagers. We had a few days of bruising, but we were fine. The people I smacked were an older couple. And that was my car. You can imagine what theirs looked like. Older couple, both of them had 2 broken legs, broken arms. The wife had a punctured lung. The insurance company told us, you better get a lawyer. They never contacted us. They never sued us. Nothing came out of it. Time moved forward. But I had to live with that. I didn't drive again for a couple of months. Guilt-ridden, because I did this. This was me. It actually took one Sunday going to church. My parents got out of the house before I did. My dad sat in the passenger seat. My mom sat in the back seat, and they wouldn't move. Where I had to sit in the driver's seat, and unless I drove, we weren't going to go to church that day. And so I had to get back on that horse and go. I was involved in 2 accidents in 1998. I wasn't driving in the second one. I was a passenger. I used to have a picture of that car, but I don't have it anymore. We were just in this little 4-door Mazda Miata or something like that. And this was in the summer of 1998. And we were invited by ACU to go out and to take part in a seminar on how to do Bible Hour. The name of the seminar that we did was how to do Bible Hour on a shoestring budget and by the skin of your teeth. I was one of the people who helped in Bible Hour, so I was invited to go to, because we actually produced a Bible Hour for the audience, and then we took questions. And it was a great day. Just like January 1st, it was a great day. Sun shining, great. Got to leave Dallas for a bit, go on an adventure. Got to go to ACU and walk around the college. It was cool. It was a great day. On the way back, we're coming home, and once we got back to the DFW Metroplex, we hopped I-30, and it was late at night. So it was about 10 o'clock at night. And we're cruising down 30. Coming back into Dallas because we got to get to Mesquite because that's where everybody's vehicles were, and then we would go home. 10 o'clock at night, we're coming down 30, and I notice up ahead, I'm sitting in the front because I'm tall. And we're going down there, and I notice that ways down there's a black car in the fast lane with no lights on, and it's not moving. And that's like, Brian, the car's not moving. And slammed the brakes, just slammed. We were going about 70 and just rear-end that sucker. Somebody actually broke down and left their car in the fast lane with no hazard lights on. And guess who didn't have an ID? Yeah. Got popped by the airbag big time. Before that, I actually looked like a fashion model. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I did come out of that wreck looking like Two-Face because I did a one-sider into the airbag. The chemicals got in the eye, and swelling and scratching and all that jazz. But you didn't see it coming. Did not see it coming. 1998 was an interesting year. Not a lot of people wanted to ride with me anymore. But that's life, isn't it? It's life. Think about the stuff that's happened in your life. Did you see it coming all the ways? Nope. We don't see it coming, do we? We don't plan for it. It just happens. You think about all the different types of insurance companies try to sell us in order that we can safe-proof our lives. It doesn't work. We can't see it all coming. That's life. John Lennon, one of the Beatles, he wrote a song called Beautiful Boy, in which one of the lyrics is, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. There's a lot of truth in that, isn't there? We can plan all day long. We can try to prevent the bad stuff from happening to us. Life can still happen. Life does happen while we're busy making other plans. And so the question for us is, what do we do about it? How can we live in this world of uncertainty? How can we keep going? Is there any hope when the wrecks are going to happen to us, when the bad stuff happens? How do we keep going? Well, we remember who our Creator is. Is that trite? Is this simple? Am I just giving you a throwaway answer? No, it's the truth. Remember who our Creator is. Remember who is the one in charge of it all. Because that is the secret of getting through life. Flip with me, if you will, to Isaiah chapter 43. Isaiah chapter 43. We're going to look at verses 1 through 7. Now you get to the period of the prophets. You got an interesting time period going on. You have the Israelites who are taken off into captivity, and they're also in the process of coming back. But the idea is, while they were in captivity, was this a total abandonment by God? No, because God was still watching over them. And this was the lesson. They lost the land. They lost who they were. They lost the temple. They had to go through a period of punishment. But God is still telling them, there is still hope for you. There is still hope. There is still life to live. There are still things to do. And we are able to get back on that horse and to keep going. Why? Because of who God is. That's it. Here's what He says. Isaiah chapter 43, verse 1. But now this is what the Lord says. He who created you, O Jacob, He who formed you, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. I give Egypt for your ransom, Cush and Seba in your stead, since you are precious and honored in my sight, and because I love you. I will give men in exchange for you, and people in exchange for your life. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bring your children from the east and gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not hold them back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Everyone who is called by my name, whom I created for my glory, whom I formed and made. How do we continue on when the unexpected nature of life hits us and hits us hard? We remember who our Father is. Remember who the Father is. Remember who created us. Who is in charge? God is in charge. After all, how long are we here on earth? Very short period of time. That was the point of the Psalms reading, and also the point of the James reading. Life is short. Life is short. Young people, go around and talk to some of the more experienced members of our church family and ask them, how quickly did life go by? Life is short. All we have to do is make it through life, and we can be home with our Father for eternity. But to get there, we got to make it through this life first. But this life is short. And the things that happen to this life, and I'm not making trite of anything that any of us have ever gone through. It's short and it's temporary because we are able to keep our eyes on something permanent and everlasting. January 1st, 1998, I honestly thought I would not drive again. Not only did I do serious damage to a couple of perfect strangers that I've never met in my life, but I also sent two of the friends that I've known all my life to the hospital. That was not a great day for me. Life continued on. Life continued on. I also witnessed one of my friends that was in that car wreck with me the year before. He had leukemia at 16. He's an inch taller than me. He's 6'5". In the course of a summer, he went from 215 pounds down to 150. After 4 months of radiation, off and on, and after telling him, you will never have kids, he's living in South Carolina, married, 3 daughters. Pray for him. We don't know what life has in store for us. When I was 21, another good friend of mine, my college roommate, had to have open heart surgery because of a defect he had from birth. I've seen friends suffer, and I've gone through my own suffering. These things were not seen. These things that we didn't see it coming. But we're able to continue on because of who's in charge. And if they died, and if we died, does that take away God running it all? No, it does not. Does that take away hope that we're able to have? No, it doesn't. Why? Because God is still in charge. And we are still able to have hope. Again, the Israelites, they lost the land and they were being punished. But God is telling them, you are mine. And since you are mine and I love you and I created you, fear not. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have saved you. Don't give in to temporary suffering, temporary fear, and temporary hardships while sacrificing eternity. Don't give in. Say, well, that's easy, preacher. That's easy. They don't know what it was like. Oh, don't they? A couple of popular examples. For example, you remember Job's bad 2 days? Yeah. Job 1 and 2. Now, Job's a very interesting case. Do you remember if we read Job that God's the one that initiated it? Yeah. God put Job in the devil's crosshairs on these days. Now, this might be a lesson that we might not want to hear. Might be a lesson we're a little bit uncomfortable with. You mean God did this? God initiated it? Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever considered my servant Job? He tells the devil. There is no one like him. God trusted Job to be able to handle it. Day number 1. Consider your worst days that you've had in life and ask if you've ever had a day like this. Day number 1. Job, a very wealthy man, a very big family. In the course of a single day, he loses all of his property, all of his animals, and all 10 of his kids in a day. How does Job respond? Job responds very faithfully. In Job chapter 1 verse 20 it says, at this Job got up and tore his robe, shaved his head, then he fell to the ground in worship. He did not fall into the ground in hate. He did not fall to the ground in despair. He fell to the ground in worship. And said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. Day 2. Once again, God initiates it. It's kind of a recap of what happened in Job 1. Devil appears before the presence of the Lord. And then God says, have you considered my servant Job? There is no one like him, even though you incited me to strike him. Well, contest number 2, where contest number 1 was the devil taking away all of Job's possessions, day number 2 was the devil taking away all of Job's health. Sores or boils sprout out on Job from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. He's sitting in a dust heap, scraping sores with a broken piece of pottery, which is festering. If you read the book of Job using poetry, but you also get some other cues of how he is feeling. He's not sleeping. He's not eating. When he does sleep, he is possessed by dreams. And all this other type of stuff is going on. He is not a well man. The rule was you cannot kill Job. What Satan did was figure out what would kill Job and then just back it off a little bit so that Job would wish he was dead. What was his reaction to day number 2? His wife comes to him and says, "Are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die." Well, remember the 10 kids that Job lost? Those are her 10 kids too. And now she's seeing him go down to his death, seemingly. Yeah, she's not having the best time either. He replied, "You are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" And all this, Job did not sin in what he said. Shall we accept the good from God and not trouble? Because God is still there. Job was actually doing really good until his friends came. And then because they're, how can I put this in an intelligent way? They're morons. They got Job all twisted up into thinking that it was God's fault and whatnot. And so at the end of the book of Job, Job actually gets to have a heart-to-heart with God in which God poses him a bunch of questions about creation and the nature of the world. To which, after God has said, "Oh, I can be a better God than what God can be. If I had a chance, God would stand here before me. I will question God and God will answer me." He had his chance and Job did not say a word until the very end of it, in which Job did say, "I repent in dust and ashes." Paul and Silas. Oh yeah, talk about a bad day. Paul and Silas, Acts 16. In the course of a day, you think about what they went through. What they wanted to do in the morning. In the morning, they just wanted to go and pray. They just were a couple of guys looking for a place to pray. This demon-possessed woman comes upon them for the span of a morning or for a long period of time. The only thing she can say is, "These two are servants of the Most High God," over and over and over and over again. You ever been chased around by a 2-year-old who keeps asking why? This is the emotion of what Paul and Silas were going through. "Oh, will you please just be quiet?" Paul, having had enough, turns around and removes the spirit from the girl. Yay! Good deed was done. Oops, she belonged to somebody and they relied on the devil-possessed slave to be able to tell people's fortunes. So now they have destroyed property from a certain point of view. In the course of a day, they are hauled in, tried falsely, lied about, thrown into the deepest, darkest dungeon, feet put into shackles, arms chained to the wall, and there they are. And they didn't do a thing to deserve it. But lo and behold, midnight comes, and Paul and Silas, after having experienced all of this, on top of being beaten in public, can be heard singing hymns, praising God, and praying. This is before God frees them, by the way. This is before God frees them. They didn't know God was going to free them. They didn't. They didn't know what God was going to do. They didn't know God was going to hit the jail with a surgical, precise earthquake. They didn't know it. But regardless, they were still praising God in the midst of their circumstances that they did not cause. Why? Because they knew, regardless of outward circumstances, they knew some things. They knew God created them. They knew God loved them. They knew God redeemed them. They knew God cared. And having this information, they realize that even when we are in the deepest, darkest holes in life, God is still there and God cares. He is still there and He cares for each one of us. Having a relationship or faith in God is not the force field that keeps trouble at bay. Because life is still going to happen while we're making other plans. There are going to be days in which we have to go through in which we wish we didn't have to. Life is going to happen. But we are still able to have hope. Because God still loves us. And can bring us through whatever it is that we go through. Isn't that right, Nora? Last night, I was up here with the elders and some of the deacons, and we watched The Passion of the Christ and talked about it. It was kind of our in-house leadership retreat. And if you've never seen The Passion of the Christ, I would encourage everybody who believes in Jesus to see it once, at least. Because, like we talked about, if you read your gospel, in Luke and Mark, it says they crucified Him. In Matthew, it says when they crucified Him. In John, it says then they crucified Him. It's a one word, they crucified Him. And with the original audience, it's like, my goodness. We don't fully understand what that means anymore, just because we don't go around crucifying people. I can make it through the deepest, dark days of my life because I read and have seen what Jesus has already done for me to see to my future. When life happens, I challenge you, don't have the feelings of this happened to me because God abandoned me. God doesn't care. God doesn't understand. Oh yeah, He does. But we are able to continue through it because we already know what's waiting for us. Because of how much God loved us. Because of how much God cares about us. Because of God already redeeming us. Will bad things happen to us? Will things happen to us which we wish wouldn't? Yes. It will. But I also promise you, if we hold on to God, we can make it through us. He can bring us to the fire that will not burn us. He can bring us to the water that won't drown us. He can bring us through a destruction that the world thought would destroy us, but it won't. Because God is still with us. Life is what happens while you're making other plans. Yeah. But thanks be to God, we're able to plan on being in heaven one day, where this stuff on earth that we think at the time is such a big deal fades away. Life is short. Heaven is forever. Keep our eyes on the prize. This morning we'd like to offer the invitation to those of you who might be in need. Maybe we don't realize how short life is. Maybe we've been putting off making that decision to become a follower of Jesus. Life is short and life will pass us by. if we're not careful. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not guaranteed the first 5 minutes. How are we going to use our time now? We'd like to take this opportunity to invite anyone who has not been baptized into the blood of Jesus Christ to take this opportunity so that you may have hope of a future, regardless of the junk that takes place in life. We know there is something else better, something waiting for us. To have our sins washed away, to arise a new creature, to arise a member of God's family. We would love to invite you now as we all stand and as we sing.